Hey, listen, I quit. Yeah, I'm going into stocks.
Name of the game. Move the money from your client's pocket into your pocket. But if you can make your client's money at the same time, it's advantageous to everyone, correct? No.
No one is paying attention.
It's unbelievable.
Have to act now.
God, this is intimate. I feel like I'm financially inside of you or something.
Okay.
I have 5 houses and a condo.
I'm considering going long on April wheat. What do you think, Valentine?
Hi guys, welcome to the Greedy Trader channel. Well, I'm not exactly greedy, as most of you old watchers of the channel will testify. I have the most conservative approach to trading. It's just a nice parody idea from the Gordon Gekko mantra. There are only two kinds of traders, the greedy ones and the fearful ones.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works.
Those of you who are new to the channel, this is where you can learn how to really trade like a professional. Every video I make is packed with real examples with before and after scenarios, so you can see that it is simply a question of sticking with the plan, not changing it because you're having an emotional meltdown. No! Okay, good morning folks. Good to have you here. So, what's the big question today? Why trading is not working for you? Now, a lot of traders, of course, who are not doing what it is they are supposed to be doing, or what at least they think they're supposed to be doing, are going to be experiencing a lot of difficulty. That's understandable. It could be a thing around expectations, or it could be a thing around something else, which is what we want to talk about today. So why it's not working for you, and this is not anecdotal. There is a ton of evidence to justify what it is I'm about to say to you, and it's totally fixable. You just need a way to fix it. And I'm going to repeat something I've consistently repeated over time, which is a lot of things that we want to do, even though we think we can do it by ourselves, we often can't do it by ourselves, and we've got to be comfortable with the idea that some things we're going to need help. And all of this is going to tie into what I want to talk about today, and I think it's going to be important to you guys to listen. Of course, if you're looking for a talking head, as I always say, with a lot of flashing lights and everything else in the background, then fantastic. But if you want to talk about trading and you want to understand how you can improve and how you can get better, then this is the channel you need to be at. If you're new here, of course you don't know me, you can look at my videos. I've got tons of evidence here that I'm pretty good at what I do. That's my ego talking. I'm not always egotistical, but on this occasion, this is my ego talking. I'm pretty good at what I do. And you're going to see tons of evidence from my YouTube channel. It's not a big channel, but with your help, I know the channel's going to grow because everything you find here is going to be largely legitimate. Obviously, when I started this channel, going back a few years now, quite a few years, it was kind of a rage against the machine type channel, right? There's so many marketers and so many people out there all offering different hodgepodge stuff, but nothing really transformational. So the idea about this channel is to provide you with everything that I think is going to be transformational. I've been a trader for a little over 15 years. It's what it is. I like to think I'm a professional at what I do, and if you listen to me, I can more or less guarantee that you're going to see a drastic improvement in your trading, because I spend a lot of time working on myself, and it's the time I've spent working on myself that I'm kind of giving you here. I'm translating that for free on YouTube. Absolutely insane. So support the channel. You know what to do. Like, subscribe. I've got a ton of stuff here. We've got sponsors taking the painstaking task of researching every single sponsor to make sure that they're pretty good at what they do and they're going to give you the best advantage in whatever space they're in. Because more than likely, if you're going to ever support any of the sponsors here, it's because they're offering something that you want. Ever wanted a prop firm that would just fund you and you get to prove your ability? Meet Tradify, the future's prop firm doing just that. Choose from tailored funding programs that align with your trading style, offering account sizes up to $750,000 with the ability to go straight to funded account, skipping evaluations. Experience seamless trading with their integration with top-tier platforms like Tradeovate, providing powerful features and access to the latest technology in the futures market. Enhance your strategy with automated trade journaling, offering in-depth analysis to refine your performance. Follow a transparent path from evaluation to live funded accounts with clear rules to support you at every step. Start trading a fully funded account now with Tradify. Please use the link in the description below. It supports the channel and our sponsors. I'm shameless about it because sponsors have to help support the YouTube channel. That, if I'm going to give you all this stuff for free, well, nothing in life can just be for free. So I've got to find a way to monetize it all so it makes the channel worth it. It makes my time worth it. So whatever the idea is, that, content should be produced for free and everything should be free, it's a really dumb idea. I don't know why people still hold true to that, by the way, if you're really good at what you do, you should be very generous with the information, and as a result, you should give it all for free and you shouldn't look to monetize it at all, because guess what? You don't need to. That's absolute rubbish. Most people who are traders, really good traders, are also entrepreneurs. This comes with a skill set. If you can trade very well, it's more than likely you're quite analytical on some degree, or at least you have the ability to make good decisions. And if you have that ability, you're probably going to also be pretty good at being an entrepreneur, at least in the digital age. I don't know if you can run a Starbucks, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be a good business person. And that's the whole point of it. So if you're a good business person, you're always going to want to monetize. So not to labor the point, but it made sense to make the point, just so that if you hear the channel for the first time and you like the content and you've gone through everything I've done, you're pretty happy and you think you've got some value, then either support the sponsors or support the channel. That's it. I'm not asking for much. Some content has a bit of a paywall. If you go to the description below, you'll see that I've developed a couple of course programs that are virtually free. There's one of them there that's completely free. Just look at the description below. Some of them, unfortunately, they had to be a paywall, but in any case, all of it is incredible value. So I don't, in my mind anyway, I don't think you'll have trouble making any money back that you spent on anything that I had to offer, because all of it is pretty decent quality. And you're going to soon see, as I start to show you some of the insights that you can get if you are part of this community. Anyway, moving on. Back to the topic at hand, which is, why is it not working? Why is it not working for you? Well, there are a couple of things. Now, for those of you who've had some degree of psychology studies, or you've engaged in that field in some shape or form, then you're probably aware of Jungian theories, right? So that's obviously the famous psychologist Carl Jung. I'm not going to go into Carl Jung at the moment, but the famous psychologist Carl Jung has a couple of theories. In fact, Carl Jung underpins the entire Western psyche. So if you were born in the West, raised in the West, like I am, then your entire psychological framework was in some shape or form developed by an understanding of Jungian theory, whether you knew that or not. So that's what I'm going to try and bring to the table, is an understanding of this, because most traders don't do very well due to a degree of self-sabotage. Yes, you deliberately sabotage yourself through various different mechanisms, and Jung believes that this is absolutely normal, right? Absolutely normal. Right, and in case you're wondering, obviously you guys are looking at my screen right now, one of the things that I do is I sell option premium. I said it time and time again. It's a great way to make income because it's such a high probability trade or high probability trading idea that I can almost say it feels sometimes anyway, I've done this for a long time, that it's practically impossible for you not to make a return. In some cases, I mean on average, you're probably looking at, if you're very, very good at writing option premium, for example, you're looking at anywhere between 100% to 200% return. There are people who achieve that. Not easily, but they achieve that. And that's return on capital, right? So again, if you have a larger capital base, you might decide that anywhere from 20% to 60% return on capital is good enough. Well, these are legit numbers, because if you go to my PTP completely free instructional videos on YouTube, pretty much a free course that takes you through my entire methodology around even things like trading CFDs, for example, or trading futures or trading with market profile. It's like a really condensed program, and that's available on the YouTube channel for free. If you look at that, one of the first things I'll show you is my own return the year I was doing that PTP, right? And the idea around it was to be as transparent as possible, so you understood that all the stuff that I'm talking about, I translate that into my own trading, because this is exactly what I do. So, and the year I was doing that, I was on track to do, at the time, an 80% return on capital. By the end of the year, I'd achieved 60% return on capital, which I was pretty happy with, to be honest, right? However, my goal the following year was to achieve 120% return on capital. I was about 80, I think it was about 85% return on capital. That is the second year, right? So the bottom line is, I'm trying to consistently achieve the highest return on capital I can with my understanding of option premium writing and volatility. So that's why I do it, because I more or less make money with it every year. So it's an absolute no-brainer. So the reason I'm saying this is, you can see it, of course, that I'm short the AMD puts at the moment. And if you take a look at that, just for argument's sake, let me just get this up here. You can see that I sold these about $2.36, right? And it's $1.37, right? So you can do the return on capital. So I sold the puts, right? So it's kind of a short put position, and I'm going to be able to cover these at $1.37 if I wanted to, but I'm looking to cover these at 76 cents, right? That's kind of where my head's at, is that we get much bigger drop in the puts, which means the stock prices go up, and as a consequence, I'm going to cover these roughly about 76 cents on the premium, right? Which, again, you're looking at the return on capital about all these things, and this one option premium, right, it's about 70% return on capital, so you can average it out, right? So I've got AMD puts. I don't just have AMD puts. I've also got puts on Cisco. I've got puts on QCOM, right? So if we just pop over to QCOM, and I've got I think they're May strikes as well, and I think I'm sitting on the 130s. Is it the 130s on the May? No, it's not. So they got to be the April 17s, and I'm gonna be somewhere, I think. Let me have a look. No, not those. Let me see, it's actually the May 14s. Maybe I'm on the 140s. Yeah, I'm on the 140s. So these have actually done pretty well. I've sold them about, what was it? I sold them about $4.70. They're $3.47. Right, I'm looking to cover them probably about $1.33. So I am expecting essentially the market to have a big rally. Now, I've got lots of time on these. These are May 16th. I've got 60 days, right? So if I calculate the time decay alone, well, it's based on, it's at least $2 worth of time decay, right? So either way, I'm going to profit. I'm fairly confident that I would. I've got 60 days. These things are already losing value, obviously, so delta's hitting them away. Sooner or later, I'm going to cover these for a cheaper price, right? So my primary idea is to sell puts. When the markets were going crazy to the downside, I was able to intraday sell calls. Don't like doing that. As soon as I was able to kind of hedge out those put positions for a little bit, and I'm done. So with options, you can be a little bit more flexible. But that's precisely why I write option premium, right? Because it's profitable. And it goes back to Jungian theory, right? And the idea I'm going to pose to you guys, which might be pretty new to some of you, and it is in the realm of psychology, since people do say that, you know, everyone tries to teach about psychology and it's all about psychology, but it's almost like they're saying a lot of stuff, but nothing's coming out, right? So it's a lot of talking, but there's no actual tangible information you can use. So I'm going to introduce you to an idea called the shadow. Build your trading career with the Fivers, where opportunity meets quality prop trading. The Fivers is one of the oldest prop firms in the business, with over 9 years of experience funding traders. Join a select group of top traders and access funding up to $4 million, empowering you to trade with confidence and scale your trading business. Experience exceptional trading conditions with low commissions, tight spreads, and the freedom to hold positions overnight or over weekends. Accelerate your trading journey with their hyper-growth program, doubling your account size at every milestone, propelling you towards your financial goals. Join a vibrant community of successful traders. More traders have succeeded in keeping their Fivers funded account than any other prop firm. Benefit from their reliable payout policy, receiving profits with the click of a button, ensuring you reap the rewards of your trading prowess. Unlock trading capital with sensible rules by joining the Fivers. Sign up using the link in the description below. This supports the channel and our sponsors. Do it now. So Jung talks about the shadow. So we all have shadows. So what's a shadow? So a shadow is technically, right? It's not even technically. A shadow is your repressed traits as a child, right? So obviously we're all born. We all have traits we come into the world with. We're pretty much empty vessels until our parents start pouring stuff into those vessels, whatever that stuff is, and that's going to become our universal truth. It doesn't matter who you are, right? Everything you believe or stand for today is not you. It's what your parents taught you, and then eventually you made it your own because you think, well, my parents can't be wrong, so you know what? I'm just going to improve on this, and this is a recipe for life. In fact, being a parent myself, parents take a high degree of pride in putting shit into their kids, right? It is what it is because it depends, right? If you're a working class person, you're going to pour working class values into your kids, right? You're going to give them some degree or sense of identity around the idea of being a working class kid. If you're a wealthy child, you're going to be part of the trust fund baby crowd, where, of course, your parents have poured in their stuff to say that, you know, you pretty much own the world, right? So again, this is not you. This is what your parents put in. But in order for them to put that stuff in, they've got to take some stuff out because we're all born with these very raw instincts, right? So when you come out, you just do what it is your instincts tell you to do, right? So again, things like anger, fear, these are all traits that have been put into us, or rather been taken out of us. My bad, right? These are traits that have been taken out of us. And the bottom line is that they've been repressed, but they're still there because that was our true character. When we came out of the womb, that was our true character. But for various different social reasons, most of the time, so that you can conform to society, you don't end up as an oddball, they got to take some stuff out. And usually, I think some of you, this is resonating with some of you at the moment, is that the stuff that tends to come out tends to be things like fear, for example. That tends to be something that people want to remove. So the first time you went to school and that kid smacked you in the face, well, if you had a dad like me, for example, you'd be like, what? If he ever does that again, you want to make sure that you make him understand that this can't go on. This is not going to be your future. And then you got, of course, the parents who say, you know what, if that happens again, you best tell the teacher so that the teacher can intervene. So that sends different signals. To one child, it sends the signal that you can't be afraid. You've got to stand up for yourself. You've got to learn to channel your anger, but you've got to stand up for yourself. And then you've got, on the other side, the other parent saying, you know, turn the other cheek or do nothing or pass that responsibility onto someone else. So effectively, it's okay to be scared, but you can't be angry. Right? So the bottom line is that these are all ways that we suppress traits that are not acceptable. And you can perfectly understand why a parent would say that to a child, right? In other cases, it could be things like denial, right? You get used to the idea of living in a fantasy land and obviously not accepting what is obvious reality. Parents can promote that as well. Often parents would see a child dreaming away and no one wants to crush their child's dreams, so they say like, yeah, of course, you know, you're going to be the next prime minister, president, you just have to do X, Y, and Z, right? So again, it is what it is, right? It might be a child is growing up with denial and maybe they didn't believe that they could be these things. It is what it is. But all of these mechanisms act as repression mechanisms for our true nature. So that's what the shadow is. So essentially, the shadow represents the part of ourselves that's repressed or technically ignored. Now, there are other cultures in the world, like Native Americans, for example, that believe in things like you've got to find your shadow. I think Jung is pretty much trying to say the same thing, is that if you want to succeed in any work of life, not just trading, you need to be able to find a way to reintegrate the repressed part of yourselves with what is now the conscious part of yourself. And the reason for that is Jung understands that the repressed part lies in the unconscious. So it's got more power over you. And as a result, it will act in the unconscious mind. So you're never aware of it. You need to be able to bring it to awareness. So you've got to identify where it's hiding, bring the shadow so you can see it. So whenever it tries to intervene, you can say, well, I can see you. I know what you're trying to do. There are various different mechanisms that you can use, right? And the shadow plays into trading massively. So, for example, let's take an example of overtrading. Right? People talk about overtrading, right? So typically, that's an unconscious fear, right? It's an unconscious fear that, oh, if I don't make this trade, I'm not going to be able to, not going to be able to make back my losses, right? I've lost money, this is terrible, right? So we're scared, we're fearful. Or I'm scared I'm not going to make those profits, right? Like, the market's moving. If I don't get in and out, it's done. But here's the thing. The market's here every day. It doesn't do anything else. So why are you afraid of missing out the gains today? Oh, if I don't make this money now, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. Well, the market doesn't care about any of that. But what's the result of that way of thinking is you're going to have too many positions on. You're going to be anxious, so you're not going to analyze the markets properly. You're not going to take into consideration the things you are, so your focus is going to be on the money. And eventually, it's going to be self-fulfilling. You're going to lose money because your unconscious fears pretty much got the better of you. So you need to be able to understand and acknowledge that, okay, I've got an unconscious fear, and you've got to ask yourself, where is that fear coming from? Is it from my childhood? Is it something that happened to me? And you need to go back to that, and you need to acknowledge it, you need to write it down, and you need to also write down the mechanism by which you're going to avoid doing that. So you start to build what we call a shadow-proof trading plan, right? So if you guys want to understand how hedge funds and, the old style proprietary trading funds produce like really high performing traders that seem to be death-defying with returns, it's by doing this kind of work with them. They get people who are really, really good at this to sit down with them and unpack all of this to find what their shadows are. Tell them the shadows, give them a way to fix that. And a lot of what I'm trying to do when I try and mentor traders is to try and identify those shadows. So anyone who's worked with me would tell you the first thing I do is I give them a personality test, right? And I give them a trader personality test, and I combine the two, and I sit down for hours and I read this material so I can understand this individual fully. In fact, I've been thinking of late that, I should probably give them an astrology test, right? Just so I can get a deeper insight. Yeah, I believe we're made of stardust, so the stars got to have an impact on our life, and, we don't quite understand the cosmos to a degree. So yeah, I'm a logical person, but if anyone's ever studied anything around quantum theory, right, you would understand that I'm not too far-fetched with the idea, and the astrologist probably had something, and that's just the reality. Some of you already believe in that stuff wholeheartedly, but for me, I look at it more from a quantum theory perspective, and all you have to do is speak to a scientist or someone who's a quantum physicist, and they'll pretty much validate a lot of what you think around these things. So just before you think I'm just, this guy's cuckoo, that's not what it is. It's just that I'm a highly practical individual and I don't dismiss anything, right? So the bottom line is that I think a lot about the individual's personality, right? That's the reality of it. So why is it not working? It's obvious that it's because of self-sabotage, right? That's why it's not working. And self-sabotage happens because the shadow, the unconscious mind, is going to sabotage every decision you do, because in its infinite wisdom, it believes it's protecting you, right? It's protecting you from essentially that stuff that your parents put into you, that the shadow understood that this is not who you really are. So you've got to find your shadows. One of the reasons I'm pretty good now at what I do is because I was able to discover my different shadows, right? I now know fully who I am. I didn't have discipline before, right? I was uber flexible, and I know where that comes from in my personal life growing up as a child. I was super flexible, which essentially meant that I had trouble sticking with a plan. And that stuff tripped me up time and time again until I acknowledged that, I'm just an ill-disciplined individual. Now, that being said, I survived the military, right? So despite my ill-discipline, I was in a disciplined organization in my very early part of my life. And still, I survived it, right? And when I say military, I was in the Navy, so it's not that kind of, it's not, I wasn't a green jacket or, that wasn't me. But I was able to adjust, right? And that was because I was adaptable and flexible. So I know my strength is I'm adaptable, which means that if markets are changing around me, I can adapt really quickly. I can create new plans on the fly. So I know that's a strength. So I just need to be able to nurture it. But I also know I'm ill-disciplined, right? So I have the ability to break ranks, right? And start a rebellion, which is why the corporate world was never going to be for me, because I'm a rebel inside, right? And that's a Jungian archetype, being a rebel. And being a rebel means it's going to affect your trading style. So people who've worked for me will understand that or worked with me would understand that. Selling premium, for example, is pretty much a rebel idea. Why is it a rebel idea? It's because I'm selling to people that I believe are making the worst possible decision in their life, which is to buy premium, as risk insurance. It's not a bad decision, obviously, but it's my bias. I believe it's a bad decision because I'm a rebel, I'm a contrarian. I think these guys are crazy. I mean, how the hell are you going to pay $4.70 for risk premium on QCOM, a stock that's been going up for the past God knows how many years? It doesn't make any sense just because there's a small panic. But the truth of the matter is that people are doing it because they believe that it protects them. They may have a very good strategy for doing this, but here I am dismissing their ideas and saying, oh, you know what, you're just crazy. And that's the rebel in me, and I understand that. But this is why the strategies work for me, is because I'm bringing that rebel into the market and deploying it the way it needs to be deployed. Now, if I decided to be someone who put premium, and put premium isn't bad to buy. And I'll just show you an example, right? So I'm going to take something very liquid, right? Let's take AMD. And I've got a physical position at AMD. That's the bizarre thing as well, right? So I'm long the stock. There we go. Let's take a look at AMD. Now let's look at the put premiums on this, right? So let me expand this out a little bit. So at one point in time, right, the put premiums were down here. They were like 40 cents. Anyone who'd bought them at 40 cents would be looking to cover them now where I'm short the premium. So it's a cyclical thing. So there's nothing stopping me from buying premium, right? But it just doesn't conform with my ideology. It just doesn't work for me because I'm a rebel. So identifying my archetypes is also important, right? I need to know who I am. Through the course of, these talks I have with you, I'm going to introduce you to all of this stuff, and hopefully that will help you do the deep work that you need to do as traders if you really want to do this long term. And it will cover everything from people who are questioning whether they should quit their job and become a trader, or they should keep their job and still be a trader. People who are questioning the best way to become a trader, to start where they need to start. And all of it, you're going to find, is rooted in Jungian theory. Right? If you can master and understand Jungian theory, you'll master yourself. And if you can do that, you are going to do pretty awesome in trading, because not only are you going to find the ideas, and that's the reason I say traders shouldn't pigeonhole themselves. It may well be you'll be a good day trader, but there's no shortage of marketers telling you, you're always going to lose money if you day trade. However, if you don't day trade and you do my specific program, then you're going to start making money because I swing trade and that makes me money. Well, you could do the same thing and it just doesn't work for you. But you never knew. You didn't stick with the day trading long enough, so you didn't know if it was going to work. So I try not to pigeonhole traders, and that's why I try and find out first and foremost what kind of personality they are. And from that, I can give them a range of playbooks that they now can look at and think, okay, this one suits me more. And then we can build on that. Okay, so that one suits you. Because all of my playbooks are risk management type. So that's not going to be a problem. Over a set of occurrences, am I going to make money? Absolutely. Because those playbooks are proper means tested. So it's not even a thing. But it's whether you're going to execute that playbook is always the thing, because you could give someone a playbook and they go away and they do something entirely different, and depending on their archetype, depending on their shadow, they might blame the market. There is a shadow that blames other people. So if you remember that person who likes to pass responsibility to others for their own problems, those kind of people are going to blame the market consistently. And I'm not speaking about it from a negative point of view. It's perfectly fine if you wanted to blame the market. Perfectly fine. It's just that you got to acknowledge that you're that kind of person. And is it beneficial to your trading, blaming the market? And I'll give you a very human example, right? At one point in my trading career, I was putting together a new platform, right? Because I'd elevated a little bit, and I felt I needed more cool stuff, and I needed a new platform, and I needed to learn all about that platform. I still use it, but at the time, it was going to be instrumental to my trading, and I wanted to be able to understand it fully. It's a new platform. So I didn't take something off or put something on, and I went to execute a trade at one point and it didn't work properly. It just didn't happen, and it's like, Jesus Christ, what's going on? These bloody platform providers. They put all this stuff, hide them away, and you can't find them but that's me blaming the platform provider. That's me blaming the market for not doing something. It's not me, but it was me, because all I needed to do was look for it and go through the platform, understand it fully, think about how I wanted to use it, and then fix it. But because I knew that, I immediately checked myself. I thought, no, you're not blaming the platform provider. It's nothing to do with them. It's a fantastic platform. It does exactly what I need it to do. So what do I need to put in place now to make sure this doesn't happen with future platforms? So if you're looking at my TWS, you can see on the right-hand side, it's properly optimized. I've got my watch list on one side, and that covers commodities and the stocks. I've got my option chain. I can move through it quite quickly, right? I've got my strategy builder, don't need that right now. I've got my, one-click triggers if I need to act in a very quick manner. If I don't, they're not a problem. And I've got everything there, right? Because I've taken the time to unpack my trader workstation and understand what's in it. So it's fully optimized. If I wanted to make any decision or take any trade, I can do that knowing that trade would execute. And that made me think about other things. If I want to instantaneously arm a trade, I'll do it, use my quick buttons. If I don't want to instantaneously arm a trade, I would use just the order panel, right? Well, I'll do it on there instead. And then it will ask me for a confirmation so I can check things like margin, whatever. So I'll have a plan that says, well, I do this for certain kind of trades, and for other trades, I just want to go in and one click them. Maybe the risk on these are lower. I'm not worried about mistakes. It's something I can fix quite quickly, so I want to one click them. It makes me efficient and takes away some of the friction that happens before you make a trade. Recently I've been doing a lot in terms of the money management world, and that meant I have to work with new and other platforms. And one of the things that I discovered was, again, similar with these platforms, the one click was turned off, and I went to put a trade on, and it gave me this confirmation. I had to confirm, and then I didn't get the execution that I wanted. And my immediate response was, oh bloody hell, these platform providers. And I checked myself again, right? So this stuff doesn't ever go away, because what I'm able to do now is reintegrate my shadow with myself. I have an awareness that the shadow is no longer a shadow. It's in my conscious frame that whenever I start to blame a platform provider, I know it's me, I haven't checked something. So I immediately go back to, my checklist. What do I need to check to make sure that that platform is fully optimized like this one? And that usually means, oh God, you probably need to sit there and watch a YouTube video for an hour on the entire platform. So I get into the habit of reading manuals. How many of you read manuals for your platform? How many of you go on YouTube and watch the platform? Like some of you have been trading for MetaTrader, for example, for years, but half of you don't know how MetaTrader fully works. I can guarantee it. And just to prove the point, I'd like you to partially close your next trade. So if you go and do your next trade, partially close it. Don't just close the whole lot. See if you can partially close this. And I bet you 90% of you can't partially close a trade on MetaTrader. I think MT5 made it a little bit easier, but MT4 definitely, I can guarantee you can't do it. That's because you haven't read the full manual of MetaTrader. But you're trading. You say you're trading, but this is something that's really important that is probably worth knowing, because getting out of positions can be quite a good thing. It's another layer to money management. Anyway, enough said, right? We're going to talk a lot about the shadow, and you're going to see that it's going to improve your trading massively, right? And it's one of the reasons why today I sell option premium, is because I understood that as a contrarian, I need to have this in place, right? That is something that I need to be able to do. And it doesn't matter if I'm day trading or swing trade, I'm a contrarian, right? Point in case. Till the next video, adios.
Hey, listen, I quit. Yeah, I'm going into stocks.
Name of the game. Move the money from your client's pocket into your pocket. But if you can make your client's money at the same time it's advantageous to everyone, correct? No.
No one is paying attention.
It's unbelievable.
Have to act now.
God, this is intimate. I feel like I'm financially inside of you or something.
Okay.
I have 5 houses and a condo.
I'm considering going long on April wheat. What do you think, Valentine?